I'm Jennifer Gilmour, and I'm an author and advocate for women in abusive relationships. I want to get to the answers to the questions that many have from those that work in the domestic abuse sector, getting an inside feel of what it's really like in their job role and sharing it with all of you. So, hi everyone, welcome to the hashtag Abuse Talk interviews. I'm delighted to have the lovely Beckie here from What's the Debate. And I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to get her to introduce herself in a moment. But thank you for tuning in, and also just want to say a big thank you to Beckie for joining me in this interview, especially because she is one of our sponsors. So that is super exciting for me. So first of all, Beckie, can you just tell us a bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Beckie, and I set up What's the Debate around November last year, so quite new.
I didn't even think it was that new.
Yeah, very new. Still kind of sorting things out and stuff, so it's gone quite quickly. But What's the Debate is basically a service mainly aimed for teachers and youth workers to get educational resources to come in line with all the new sex and relationship education, but mainly to tackle around domestic abuse, child sexual exploitation, but also mental health and healthy relationships. So it's resources they can buy, but also I can go in and deliver workshops in the schools and training to professionals.
Wow, so it's resources, but I have seen that from just the social media and having a look at your website as well, and didn't even realise you were that new. It feels like it looks so professional. It's been around for a while, so well done on that. But I noticed that you've got these cards. So can you tell us a bit about the resources and how you basically communicate those particular subjects to people?
Yeah. So they started off with 6 topics. So what the resources are, I should have had some with me, but they're PVC cards. They're the size of like your cash cards, your ATM cards,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're printed on. So I print them myself, package them all up and everything. So each topic, so there's like there's a topic for domestic abuse, there's one for child sexual exploitation, there's relationships, one around sex, one about risk, and one around mental health, which is for those the topics for secondary schools, so the older young people. And what they are is they are all myths and misconceptions around that topic.
Right.
One that I've heard, so I've been working in the field of domestic abuse and sexual violence for about 15 years now, and they're all myths that I heard 15 years ago but are still hearing. And they're myths that when I used to go in and do group work in the schools in my previous employment, that you would hear the kids say, well, this is what it happens because of this, or this is why, and things like that. So it's all myths that you can then teachers can hold debates with. So the kid can say the statements, the kids can go whether they agree or disagree, and then they can have that kind of peer education as well. So that actually, when I facilitated them in conferences and things, you get some kids that go, no, that's not true, it's because of this. And you go, some kids go, but I've heard it because I've seen it on this social media, or I've seen it on this program. So they can kind of have that discussion and educate each other. So that's
Wow.
mainly what the resources are in a nutshell.
Just in a nutshell. No, but that's really good to hear. And I guess it sort of gets me thinking. I've heard a bit about your history and the amount of experience you've got. So what was the reason to perhaps even set up What's the Debate, or even go into this industry and, sort of look at it altogether?
I think I've always, like I've been in this. I was very lucky that when I finished college and I did health and social care and stuff, that I was able to get a job in a residential children's home. So it was for
Right.
all boys that couldn't be adopted, or because of the behavioural difficulties, but the behavioural difficulties through the abuse that they'd suffered. So that was my first kind of job into this field. And from then, it's just kind of, I've become so very passionate about working with children and young people that are either affected by being directly abused or through witnessing domestic abuse. That's what I've been working with for the last 3-4 years before I started this up.
Yeah.
And then a big part of it is that I love training, absolutely love delivering training. If you said that while I was at uni, I would have cried. Sort of giving a presentation or anything while I was at uni, my voice would sound like I was going to break into tears. But I think through this, it's the fact that I know that through training or doing the workshops is that you are helping people kind of empower themselves, but you're also helping professionals empower themselves to support their caseloads and clients and to support friends and family and everything like that. So I love being able to kind of help people in that way.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for that. It's also nice to know for me as a person anyway, to see how that's developed. I guess it's when you sort of look into things deeper and talking with people about what the passion is or how it begun, it sort of gives it more depth and more of an emotional link, really. So you've spoken a bit about your resources and the cards already, and a bit about, you know, how they work. But if I was to, I don't know, pick one of those cards up already, is it like a game? Can you use it as a game, or how is it, if, like, the rules and everything like that? Can you tell us a bit about the process on how to play it if it is a game?
It can be. So the feedback that I'm getting, so how I've done it, because I've just facilitated workshop with kids, how I've done it is that I get them put all the cards down, face down, so they can't see the statement, and mix up some of the topics so they can choose one. So like the older ones always go for kind of like sex, thinking it's like that, and get a lot of giggles. But some like the younger ones, because there's separate topics for primary schools as well. So they'll be like, oh, we want to pick like a friendship one or growing up one. I would then read the statement and say, this side of the room is agree, this side of the room is disagree, go to which side that you think. So then they would go, and then I'd say, okay, let's have a kind of a discussion or a debate about why you've gone to that side of the room. So like they'll take turns. So one person will say, I agree with it because of this, and I say, okay, has anyone on this side got, what do they want to like kind of have their counter argument with? And they'll be like, no, we don't agree with it because of this, and things like that. So you can kind of do it that way, and you can, depending on the engagement of the room, how long the session is. I've done it for 15 minutes, but also up to 45 minutes to an hour. I know some of the primary schools will use one card and have a 15-minute discussion in like their circle times. But they can also be used on one-to-one. So I had a young person come around, and she was talking to me about her relationships and how she was like finding it a bit annoying with how all of her friends were with their boyfriends and things like that. So I put the cards out and I said, what statements of these cards do you agree with? And she kind of picks them all out and put them like in a line. So then we had that discussion of where these statements like come from. Why does she believe them? Why does she think other people believe them? And a lot of it was like around peer pressure and society and social media and things like that. And so then we got to have that kind of discussion. But then we also had, well, how do you think these statements, if you're growing up hearing these statements every day, how would you think that makes you feel? How would that make you, like, stop you from doing certain activities or certain behaviours and things like that? So then we had this really good discussion just around kind of like her picking some of these statements out that she thought she agreed with.
That sounds really good. I didn't even consider like a multi-use. You can use them in different ways, which is really interesting. And I suppose it'd be really good for events as well, for getting that discussion and conversation and more like maybe thought-provoking at events, to get people thinking about it openly and not being afraid maybe to, you know, put themselves at one side of the room and be like, having that perception that maybe has been there for quite some years because of the way we've been brought up in with the media involvement and for everything else that has been involved in that sort of idea process.
Yeah, exactly, because they all come with like a facilitator's guide and then also like 4 other lesson plans, so then the teachers can extend the knowledge and the development as well, so it can spread over a couple of sessions, or they can have like, if they have like a whole day learning, then they've got like a pack of different lesson plans that they can do as well. But I did some workshops, just some bite-sized workshops at an anti-bullying conference in Portsmouth in the beginning of the year with primary school, and that was exactly it. We had a very brief like little chat of like, what do they see as a debate, Made sure there were some ground rules, like you're all here because it's an anti-bullying conference, so obviously make sure you're nice to each other, there's no wrong answer. And then the best one, which I love doing, is boys stronger than girls. You can imagine what that one was. All the boys agreed and all the girls disagreed. And we had that very brief discussion. They said, well, we're better at football and we're better at this. And then I just simply said, but what do we mean by strength? And the whole room just went, oh.
Really interesting.
They were like, well, there's all different. There's emotional strength and there's physical strength and there's being like intelligence and things like that. So then they all kind of like got together in the middle and went, no, we're all the same. And I was like, brilliant, good.
I think I'd like to be a fly on the wall with that.
Yeah. There were some teachers in the background as well, and as soon as all the kids went, oh yeah, they went, yep, penny dropped.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it was quite good.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that, to be honest. I think it's quite interesting to see how people respond as well, and even young children. So obviously I've seen that you can buy the cards on your website. How do people access those cards? Is it just through the website, or do they have to have any kind of training? I know you do some training, so how does that work, and how do people access it?
So they can just go on the website and buy them, because obviously a lot of like I said, it comes with a facilitation guide of like tips and all the kind of facts and statistics that go against the statements and the myths and things like that. So all that information is put on there, because at the end of the day, like I said, most of my clients at the moment are teachers and youth workers, so they already have those skills and they know they're young people that they're delivering this to, so they know who their class is and they know kind of the dynamics around it and things like that. So they can, if they want to, just buy them. They can buy as many sets as they want and they can pick and mix. You can only buy the 6 main ones. I mean, I've expanded now as well, so the 6 main ones now also include like sexting and porn and drugs and alcohol and things like that, so they can pick and mix to make their own kind of like toolkit. But if they feel, especially a lot of teachers kind of a bit concerned around the new sex and relationship education coming in, of like they've never been trained in it, they don't get the training, they're not sure how to tackle some very of the sensitive and delicate issues like domestic abuse and child sexual exploitation, then they can purchase a package where they get the 6 topics, all of the cards from those 6 topics, facilitation guides and lesson plan, but I can also come in and do a kind of train the trainer workshop around the skills and how to use them and how to tackle those kind of sensitive questions that might come up.
That sounds great, thank you for that. I mean, it's great to sort of get an inside feel for it and talk to the person behind What's the Debate. So I suppose we should maybe talk about how much does it cost then for your training and for the cards.
So the cards are £30 a topic, but the more that you buy, there is then discounts applied. So if you would like to buy 2, then it's like £55, and then more discount is taken off as well. Yeah. So if you were to buy like the whole set, I think it works out, if you buy the whole set of 6, it's £180, I think. Not right in front of me, but it all does all discount off. And then the training, the training at the moment, all my training and workshop at the moment does have 20% off until the end of July, to celebrate that we've taken that step to become a limited company rather than a sole trader. Yes. So there is 20% off at the moment. It's different because for certain workshops and how schools do it, that sometimes they have you for an hour, sometimes they have what's down for drop down days and things like that, so there are set prices. A lot of it is on my website, but they can also contact me and then it can be bespoke, because sometimes depending on the location there might be travel expenses, but they might not, depending on where it is.
Well, talking a bit, I don't know more personally, but we have to talk about your SBS win. Because that is very exciting. How did you feel winning the Theopathetis #SBS competition? So for people that don't know, it's a competition every Sunday night. Theopathetis is a former dragon from Dragon's Den on the is it BBC? I want to say BBC. No, it's BBC 2, and holds this competition each week. And I think it must be thousands. I want to say thousands. I think hundreds of people have joined into it, and it's quite a prestigious thing now, isn't it? So
it is, yeah, and it was amazing. So I won on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that's exciting. What a nice present.
So I think it was the Sunday, so you enter on the Sunday and then he announces the winners on the Monday. So I entered on the Sunday, which was Christmas Eve. We're staying with my soon to be mother-in-law at the moment, who is Polish. So Christmas Eve for them is actually more important than Christmas Day. So we were getting ready. She was having the shoe spread, which is like 24 different courses, things like that. And my partner shouted out to me and he was like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I went, "Oh, quickly enter it." So I did my tweet, sent it, and then obviously it was Christmas Eve, forgotten about the day and things like that. And then the next day I'm washing up some of the leftovers from the day before, and my phone starts buzzing. It like does the notifications when you get on Twitter, and then it just would not stop making this noise because I'm like washing up, like, what is that? Looked, and how he announces it is that he retweets you and then he says congratulations, and it was all it came up was like, "You've been retweeted by Theo," and I was like, "Oh." And
it's always when you least expect it, perhaps.
Yeah. House to myself. Everyone was kind of out getting the last bits for Christmas and things. And yeah, so I was washing up and did like a little dance and phoned my mum up straight away, and I was like, "I've won."
Did you secretly jump up and down? I would think I would have jumped up and down like, yay.
Yeah, I did. I had a little dance. I think I scared the dog and the cat.
Oh, and how did it feel going to the event and actually meeting him in person and going to his, because he does like a once a year, isn't it, that he does this massive event for SBS winners, and you can go down and you get your certificate, I guess, and I think there's like loads of goodies and whatnot for that day, isn't there?
There is. So quite lucky it was in Birmingham, so it's not far for me to go at all. And I took my mum, who some people might know as Strength Cards on Twitter, because obviously she helped me set all this up and everything. So she came with me. But it was amazing because he does obviously like the weekly chats as well. So you get to talk to other SBS winners and network and get that support. And then you actually all get to meet everyone on that day. So it's really nice. You can finally put like faces to names and go, "Oh, I've been chatting to you for however long," and things like that. So it was a really good event, really inspirational, quite motivational. We had like people from Google to kind of do that, how to sort out your website and the best kind of things that you can do to optimize everything. He had Sir Tom Hunter there to do kind of like a talk of how they both kind of started off as very small sole traders basically and have developed to what they are now, and it was really good. Yeah, there was a good nice little goodie bag that we got at the end as well.
Yeah, so that's always got to be a winner for me. The goodie bag, and the fact that you got to meet him and have that photograph.
Yeah, got to meet him and met that photograph. There's one picture, it looks like he's going in for the kiss, which is quite funny.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah. But yeah, it was lovely because he gives, although obviously it's quite busy and there's quite a few winners, like when you got with the photograph, he kind of said to me, he was like which one are you looked? And I said, "Oh, what's the debate?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." And he said, and I said, obviously, doing the resources around domestic abuse and TSE, and he said that's a really tricky like area and field to work in. He said, and so you're doing a fantastic job, like well done and things like that. So he takes that time to just have a quick chat with you while you're taking your photos and things like that.
That's really lovely. I think that is what you want as well, isn't it? So yeah. I want to give you a personal congratulations again for being an SBS winner.
Yeah. Looking forward to next year's one because you get to go every year now.
Yeah, well, my husband's going. I'm not. So you'll have to meet my husband. Yeah, he's won.
You'll have to go as his +1 though.
No, yeah, we'll have to see. Just to meet everybody. So you've spoken a bit about your experience as well, and you obviously have 15 years. Was it that you were saying before?
About 15 years, which makes me feel quite old, but yeah.
Well, that's quite exciting, and you might have maybe already answered this, but I guess I'm kind of looking for maybe something else. But what stands out to you out of all of that experience? Like, I don't know, like a learning curve or like a particular memory that it's really helped impact your kind of journey with What's the Debate?
There is a few. I think kind of never judging a book by its cover, especially with young people. So I started working in the children's home while I was doing my degree in criminology, and I originally done that because I wanted to work for the youth offending team.
Right.
And back then, I mean, you're talking 15 years ago, one of the youth workers came to youth offending workers come to speak to one of the boys. He was 12, and kind of basically belittled him and said, well, you've wasted your life now because you've like done this criminal act, which was a very petty criminal act, and the reason he'd done it was because of the abuse that he was suffering. And I really didn't like how he was like treated, and I was like, well, no, it's not as black as white as that. And there's so much, and as we know as well with like women, that there's a high proportion of women in prison, but that they've been victims of domestic abuse, and a lot of that might be because theft, for that's the only way they can get food for the family and things like that, and aren't as simple as that and black and white. So that was a big kind of curve of, no, actually I really want to work with young people that are survivors and victims, and I want to help them much and kind of change that very straightforward thinking of like, well, you've done this, that's wrong, and that's it kind of thing. But then also I was very lucky when I finished and graduated that I managed to get a job with Bernardo's in the field of child sexual exploitation. And I think a big one of that is that was mainly with girls that I was working with on the one-to-one basis, and a lot of school and raising awareness as well. But two girls in particular, one that I had sat with that had unfortunately she had suffered, she was raped, and while we were sat there waiting for the police and social worker and things like that, she sat there and she went, why are we always taught about stranger danger when it's not strangers? And that took me a lot back to my own childhood and school and things like that, is that it was always kind of stranger danger, and everyone kind of jokes about, like, you know, the creepy old guy with the trench coat and come and have a look at like puppies or some sweeties for you, and that's not it at all. It's really not. And then there was another girl who had been through a very similar situation. However, hers was that she'd gone out, had normal typical teenage party, and was telling me, and we were sat in McDonald's, and the most heartbreaking thing was that unfortunately she'd been sexually assaulted as well, but she hadn't realised it. And she was just sat there eating her Big Mac, talking about this party, about how the party was really good. She went, and I got really drunk. She went, and I know she went, I got so drunk that I ended up throwing up in the garden outside. Went back to the party, enjoying the party. And then it was just so blasé how she said it. She went, and then I think I passed out. I woke up and there was a guy on top of me, and I passed out again. And then she just carried on talking. I was like, whoa, what do you mean? And she was like, and she thought I was going to tell her off kind of about the drinking and how much, because she had thrown up. And she was like, I know I shouldn't have drunk that much. And I went, no, I really don't care about that. Tell me about the guy. And she was like, well, I just woke up and he was on top of me and things like that. And then it was like on that realisation, and she went, you kind of like stopped, and her just face, if she suddenly realised, she went, that wasn't okay, was it? I went, no, that really was not okay. And when she was kind of sat there, and then when we went through all that whole process of the hospital and all the evidence and things like that, she sat there and she went, she was kind of doubting it. She went, but I couldn't have been like raped or sexually assaulted. And I said, why? And she went, because it wasn't a stranger and it wasn't violent and I wasn't screaming and pushing him off. And I said, but that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot, still to this day, that, I mean, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And still to this day, when I only started this in November, before that when I was working with young people in schools and things, that it's very much like domestic violence has to be violent, and rape and sexual assault has to be that stranger and be that violent thing, because that's what they see on telly and that's what's dramatised and things like that, and that's not it at all. And again, that very much with that young girl said, why are we taught about stranger danger when it's not?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot's been talking about now is the sexual coercion,
Yeah.
and that's so important to talk about because it comes hand in hand with any, you know, domestic abuse and any other kind of situation, and even like what you said about stranger danger. I don't teach my children stranger danger. I say stranger aware, you know, because sometimes there's been moments in my life where strangers have been helpful or able to help me. And I was like having a walk today, for example, and we're just in the countryside, and there was this woman, she had this allotment, and we just had this lovely conversation with her, and it's just about, does that stranger, you know, sort of addressing the situation. And if I'm saying to my children stranger danger, but yet I'm going to speak to people out in the public and talking to people, being polite, and, you know, having that kind of way of living, then it doesn't really give a solid message, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, hopefully that will catch on and keep going with it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really important, everything that you said there, especially with knowing that it was not okay, knowing that it wasn't, you know, that it was rape or whatever word we put to that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for sharing that with me. I think it's really helpful to hear like kind of like case studies and to sort of get an idea for sort of the work you've done and the, you know, your experience, and obviously bringing that into What's the Debate, which is new and I didn't even realise it. You know, I've looked through the material myself and, you know, had a look, and I do encourage people to have a look. And I used to be a youth worker, so I would have seen the value in that as a youth worker kind of hat. Thank you so much, Beckie, for answering my questions. I hope it wasn't too much or anything. I really enjoyed doing interviews, and also want to thank you again for being a sponsor for Abuse Talk, which has just celebrated its first birthday.
No, happy birthday!
Which is just a shock to me because it's gone so fast and there's so much to go on and do. And for those that are watching right now, at 8 o'clock GMT, it's #Abuse Talk on Twitter, and I'm sure Beckie will be there because she's there nearly every week. Tweeting. So if anybody didn't have the chance to ask any questions while we're here chatting, then do send over a tweet to Beckie and I will share her information on Twitter. And of course, one thing I should ask is, how do people find you online, Beckie?
So it's on the website is www.whatsthedebate.co.uk. Twitter is What's the Debate. I'm also on Facebook under What's the Debate as well, and Instagram. That's
great. Well, and I always say it, I've made you say it for no reason because I'm going to put it in the description. So if you're wanting to get there straight away, go to the description on this YouTube channel and you'll have all the links direct to What's the Debate. Also want to mention before we go that the next interview will be on the 3rd of July, so pencil it in. I always want to say 7:30, but depending on the interview it's creeping to 7:15. So have a look for the tweets and information before then, but you can follow everything on #AbuseTalk. And just want to say a big thank you again. I think I've thanked you many times now. But thank you so much, Beckie. It's been such an interesting and thought-provoking interview to hear about what you've done with What's the Debate, and I wish you all the success and hope that people check you out on here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
No problem.